This is a god eating his child. Francisco Goya put it on a wall around 1820, nobody's certain of the year, and it stands 1.5 meters tall. Not a canvas. A wall. And the wall was in his dining room. He'd bought the house the previous February, out past the edge of Madrid, down on the river. He was 72 and almost completely deaf. That autumn an illness nearly finished him, and when he got up from it he started painting the rooms. He didn't title any of them. Nobody commissioned them and nobody was coming to look at them, and for the rest of his life Goya never mentioned them in a single letter that survives. 14 went up in that house. 6 went in the room where he ate. La Leocadia. Come in through the door. The first thing on the wall is a woman in black. She's leaning on a mound of earth with an iron railing running behind it. The catalogues call it a tomb and won't say whose. Goya didn't say either. She's almost certainly Leocadia Weiss. She lived in the house. Officially, she was the housekeeper. She was in her 30s, Goya was in his 70s. She was married to a man called Isidoro, and nobody believed the housekeeper story at the time and nobody believes it now. There was a girl in the house as well, Rosario. The paperwork doesn't record who she was. So you come in for dinner, and the first thing you see is your host's lover, dressed for a funeral, leaning on a grave. Consider the career this man had. He'd painted Charles IV and the entire royal family lined up in their sashes and their medals. He'd put the Duchess of Alba in white silk. He was first court painter to the King of Spain and his work hung in the palace. At 73 he's in his own dining room with a brush, putting a widow on the plaster. Nobody was coming to see it. No client. No critic. He just wanted her there while he ate. 2 old men. Turn. Opposite Judith, a tall narrow panel, and 2 figures on it. An old man with a white beard, both hands folded on a stick, looking at nothing in particular. Behind him, very close, a second figure with its mouth open, shouting into his ear. Nobody agrees on what the second one is. Brugada's inventory called it a friar. Some catalogues call it a demon. It's bald, it has almost no teeth, it's got a hand raised near the old man's shoulder, and whatever it's saying it directly into the ear. Goya went deaf at 46, from an illness nobody has ever identified. He stayed deaf for the last 35 years of his life. And the house he bought at 72 was already known as the deaf man's house before he ever saw it, named for a previous owner who was also deaf. He bought a property with his own condition written into the paperwork. So the man who couldn't hear anything painted a figure shouting into an old man's ear, at eye level, in the room where he ate his dinner. He left no note about it. He left no note about any of them. It's 144 centimeters of a conversation going nowhere. Judith and Holofernes. The back wall has a window in the middle of it and a painting on either side. This is Judith. Old Testament. She gets the Assyrian general Holofernes drunk in his own tent and takes his head off with his own sword. Israel is saved, and for 300 years European painters cannot leave the story alone. Caravaggio did it. Gentileschi did it twice. It's a subject that comes with furniture, the tent, the maid, the sword, the head coming away. Goya keeps the maid and throws the rest out. No tent. No head either, and no Holofernes at all. In fact, he's somewhere below the frame. There's an arm up in the dark holding the blade, and down in the corner an old woman with her hands together, praying, or watching, or waiting for it to be over. And Judith's face is the best lit thing in the picture. She's looking down at the work. It's the expression you'd wear checking a seam. Now the measurement. Judith stands 143 centimeters. So does Saturn. Goya painted the 2 of them to the same height and put them on the same wall, one on either side of that window. A woman taking a man's head off. A father eating his son. Dinner was served between them. Which is Sabbath? The great he-goat. The long wall. 4 1/3 meters of it. A goat is preaching. Black, horned, in silhouette, leaning in towards the congregation. In front of him a crowd sits on the ground with their faces turned up, mostly women, mostly old. Off at the right-hand edge there's a young one sitting apart with her hands in a muff, and she's the only figure in the picture not looking at the goat. Goya had painted this subject before, in 1798, for the Duchess of Osuna. In that one, the goat sits square in the middle wearing a garland of leaves and stares straight out at you, and the effect is very nearly comic. 20-odd years later he's turned it around. You get its back. The crowd has eaten the picture. Brigada is the one who called it the Great He-Goat. The Basque word for a witch's Sabbath is akalar, and it comes from akera, which just means male goat. Facing it, on the other long wall, Goya put a second crowd exactly the same size. A pilgrimage. Faces stacked to the horizon, mouths open. 2 4-meter walls of people, staring at each other across the table. One thing before you study the composition. It isn't the composition. When they cut this off the wall in 1874, they lost close to 1.5 meters from the right-hand end, and the young woman who now sits out at the edge of everything used to be in the middle. The whole picture was built around her. What you're looking at is a survivor of a crop. Saturn Devouring His Son. Now the wall you've been avoiding. A figure crouched in the dark. Eyes open too wide. Hands sunk into the back of a body, biting the arm off at the elbow. The head has already gone. We call it Saturn. Goya called it nothing at all. The name comes from an inventory drawn up by a friend of his, Antonio Brigada, after he was dead, and it's been the title ever since. The trouble is it doesn't fit. In the myth, Saturn hears a prophecy that one of his sons will overthrow him, so he swallows each child whole the moment it's born, and years later brings them all back up alive when his wife swaps the last one for a stone. Whole. Alive. This figure is tearing an arm off with its teeth, and the body in its hands is no infant. Adult proportions, adult back, adult hips. There's no scythe. There's no hourglass. Not one of the things that identify Saturn is anywhere in the painting. The scholar Fred Licht went through all of it and concluded the traditional title is probably wrong, which is a courteous way of saying we've been reading this picture backwards for 2 centuries and can't prove otherwise. Rubens painted the same myth in 1636. It's in the Prado now, a few rooms from this one. A screaming infant, a night sky, the whole story spelled out for you. Goya knew that painting. He'd walked past it. Then he came home and made this, and explained nothing, and put it up over a landscape. That last part isn't a figure of speech. Radiography shows the walls of that house had countryside on them first. Blue sky. Animals. He covered it over. Goya buried 6 of his 7 children. Javier was the one who lived. In 1823 he signed the house over to Javier's boy and left for France. In 1874 a restorer cut the paintings off the walls, and a great deal of the paint stayed behind on the plaster. What hangs in the Prado is darker than what Goya made, because time and the transfer pulled the color out of it. Even the name they gave the set is wrong. Go back to the woman by the door and look at the sky behind her. It's pale green. Nobody was ever meant to see any of this. You just did. Goya died in Bordeaux in 1828. 82 years old, still deaf, still saying nothing about any of it. The house came down in 1909. There's nothing on the site now. 14 paintings went up in that building. 6 were in this room. The other 8 were upstairs, and they're worse. That's the next one. So subscribe if you want the rest of the house. One question before you go. Of the 5 walls you've just sat between, which is the one you couldn't have eaten under? Comments.